A positive mindset is the best meditation for healing and intuition. First of all, let's clarify what I'm referring to when I'm talking about intuition and meditation. There are a lot of videos on YouTube and almost everywhere on this platform that we call YouTube and internet. But I think basically meditation is accepting the suffering, because we all are told how to be present in the moment, and it's kind of easy when things go our way, but when we are in trouble, it's difficult, and that's the tricky part. So you just have to act in a sort of counterintuitive way and try to be aware of your emotion, and even to intend to localize it on a corporeal level. Some people think it's in their chest, others believe that's in their gloat, or neck. It doesn't matter. Although the funny thing is that if you stay in this emotion long enough, it fades away. Attention is like fire, and you have to constantly do that throughout your life, because when you feel this way, it means that your psyche is warning you about something which needs your immediate attention. So when you focus on that, you become alert, and so your mind and body relax in a organic way, because you obeyed your impulses, and you kind of try to point and locate the pain. It's the same thing when you have a physical pain. If you try to ignore it, it's like the pain is getting stronger, because your brain is sending you alert signals that you need to pay attention more to something. But when you stick with it, eventually it goes away. Although not when the blessings, when the wound are extreme. But our usual turmoils, we can tame in this way. And that's it for my thoughts on meditation. Now, when it comes to having a positive mindset, it's something similar to repeating a mantra, a good one. It doesn't matter. Of course, ideally you should try to clean your mind of most thoughts, but that's very difficult and very esoterical. It's something that you need to understand on a mystical level, and it's not something at which I excel more than you guys. But yeah, that's the ideal version. But if you are a regular mortal like most of us, then it's better to be stubborn and cultivate that inner feeling that things are going to be fine ultimately, which doesn't mean that they will go your way, but you'll be good. And I want to point out here that we shouldn't exaggerate the power of faith, and you know how I say that if you believe, everything will come true. Well, in a metaphorical sense, yes, but pragmatically, no. However, if you stay optimistic, you don't spend so much energy on unnecessary anxiety. So when you are faced with the actual obstacle, you can overcome it easily. But when you are constantly tensed, then that drains your energy, and you are helpless and hopeless when the time of the actual struggle comes. So it doesn't matter what kind of mantra you have. I just try to convince myself that things are going to be good, and that I'm going to be okay. Which doesn't mean that if I want to believe that I will become an astronaut or president of the United States, that will come true. So yeah, if you have an unrealistic goal, it doesn't work. But if your motive is to gain some inner peace in this life, which ultimately everything boils down to, then that sort of thinking might suit you. And I want to share a story with you in order to contextualize this idea. And I want to tell you about my uncle, who was a doctor and a very brilliant guy, whom I loved more than my father, and with whom we used to have very long conversations, and who was in general positive and genuine and warm person, you know. She was just tender. He loved the kids very much. And so when I was little, sometimes he seemed to me like a little bit arrogant sometimes, but he always exuded that sort of positive charisma, you know, that things were going to be fine. And you could feel that. And as a kid, I might view it as arrogance sometimes, although I admired his confidence. But as I grew older and got to know him better, I realized that he had the same doubts that most of us have. But he kind of learned throughout his life to channel this energy and think positively. Because if you don't have if all of your convictions are unwavering, then you are like neutral. But in order to be confident, you need fear to kind of control it and transform it in something else. It doesn't mean that you are fake or that he was not genuine, but that's how it is. You have to be always aware of that. And so I discovered that, he was human like all of us, but still, it was very inspiring to talk to him because he genuinely was attached to me and had a very calm vibe and poised. So, some year passed and he found out that he had cancer. And he also had to provide for 4 kids. Actually 5, but one of them was already almost an adult. So he had to take care for 3 minor children. And so it was a second stage cancer, which is mostly, it's like a death sentence in a lot of ways. And he knew that, being a doctor himself. But he always tried to stay positive and among other things, he liked to learn during his life, and he planned to go to Germany in order to become a medic there and earn very well, because there doctors are remunerated as they should be. They are very valued, at least compared to most East European countries, where nobody is appreciated actually, except politicians and the thieves. So he tried to learn, and he was listening to German courses while he was hospitalized and tried to cure his cancer. And I used to visit him, and even in both moments, he still emanated that, radiance, like that things will be fine, that sort of, confidence that's almost mystical, and you have to be a little bit crazy in this life in order to survive, because no matter how smart you are, the amount of variables at play in this universe are innumerable, and you can't take them all into account. And whenever you think that you found a safe place, life just hits you from a place from which you wouldn't expect to receive a hit. It's the metaphor with the snake hiding in the grass, like the Bible parable. Whenever you in your safest place, something that you couldn't take into consideration comes and brings chaos. So you have to always be vigilant, which doesn't mean tense and anxious. However, let me get back to, he was doing that even in this situation. And I remember once I was talking to my grandma, who was the opposite, a very steadfast woman, but who lived in fear almost all her life, and always was trying to impress and be a role model. And she was very pessimistic. And so I remember I was talking to her, and she would tell me that he, meaning my uncle, called her, and he told her that once the doctor came into his room and asked him what he was doing. And he answered, "I'm learning German." And my grandma said something like, "You know, why is he doing that? The doctor must have thought that you are already dead. Why are you still wasting your time doing this?" And I was already used to her way of viewing life, so it was meaningless to her. I don't remember my reply, but was usually along the lines that we should think that everything will settle. So he fought until the end, and he died. It doesn't mean that miracles happen everywhere and all the time. Sometimes, even if you have a positive mindset, it doesn't mean that everything you put your mind to comes true. However, if your mindset is negative, you are diminishing your chances to success. And I still have this very fond memory of my uncle, whom I refused to visit when he was on his last days, because he became paralyzed, and my grandma told me that when he was already aware that the end was near and there was no escape, he cried and asked for his mother. But that's not his real version, no. And I didn't want to see him this way, because it would have broke my heart to do that. But we are all weak and have bodies, and in the end, things happen. But you need to have this sort of, belief. If it's God that you believe, that's good. If not, maybe yourself, maybe universe. But I advocate to develop this sort of somehow foolish and an irrational conviction that everything will fall into place eventually. How about